This is the Bear Country Outdoors Barely a Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Joyce, and with me is James Forsland and Chris Cantrell. Thanks for joining.
Here we are, podcast night, and tonight we're going to get going and talk about what happened with the last commission meetings, which James will bring a little bit of light to us about.
Yep.
Also, we're going to answer some questions that we put out on the Instagram tonight. And as well, we're also going to talk a little bit about opening day coming up here in a week.
Which should be open by the time you hear this podcast.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys have already filled a tag.
Yeah, and good luck to everybody out there trying to get some bears.
Good luck.
Good luck, everybody. So let's start out with some news from this last commission meeting that just happened.
Yeah.
So they did a vote on two major issues. One being, let me rephrase that. They're not issues. They're things that need to happen or not happen.
Making it issues for hunters.
So
basically.
they made an issue out of the cougar seasons and quotas that was a non-issue. And then a thing that is really an issue, which is the wolf problem that we have in delisting wolves from endangered to sensitive. Which we'll start with that one. They did not delist, even though they had pressure from the Department of Fish and Wildlife that it needed to happen. So basically biologists, state fish and game people are saying, hey, we're at or well above our specs of what we wanted to reach for wolf population, and in some areas we're way over, and we need to delist from sensitive or from endangered to sensitive so that we can start gathering some sort of a management plan for future, because we're going down a bad road, and we've already been going down this bad road for a long time. And long story short, as Chris likes to say, we did not get them delisted. The commission decided to once again go away from their duty, which is to manage all species of wildlife in the state and protect wolves for even longer. And this issue, as far as I know it, will not be revisited for 5 years. Now, if you have been paying attention to what's been happening and the population, that they just did that study that showed that there was, what was it, a 30% increase in 1 year in the wolf population?
Which was perfect because I saw a very anti-hunting survey done. A mutual friend of ours had sent to me, and it said wolves have no major no major decrease in the deer population based on wolves. And I'm like, what do you think they eat?
Yeah.
Like, they're not vegans, you know? Like, they're out there. There's no Arby's.
Well,
You know, like, what are these wolves eating?
Perfect example is, like, we'll give P and Wild a shout out. They just put out a film called Trophy on YouTube, which was really good, by the way. And they're up in a area. I'm not going to say where they're at. I know where they were at, but they're in a wilderness area that is not known for having a population of wolves. And the only thing for those wolves to eat up in that area is mule deer. That's it. So you tell me that they don't have a effect on deer populations. If that's the only food around, of course they're going to eat deer.
Absolutely they do, yeah.
Now, a big, slow mule deer is going to be a lot easier to catch than a fast little whitetail, but they will get whatever is around.
They kill everything. Like, they're not.
So they're up high, they're down low.
Dude, they're
They're
everywhere.
all over the place.
Wherever the food is.
And I'm just going to say, like, they're spreading across Washington like a plague.
Yeah.
And that's, honestly, we might take some flack for this, but they are a plague. They really are. I mean, you look at what
There's a
they
reason
can.
why our forefathers shot them all.
Yeah. And now I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any wolves on the landscape ever. I don't agree with that. I feel like that would just be
You could manage them.
you could manage them. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
negligence to a point.
But especially in this day and age, with the way that things are in the population that we have of humans, there needs to be a smaller number of wolves than what they said was 100 years ago.
To tie into that, our another great decision by our fishing game, which I had a discussion with somebody today about our fishing game versus the United States fishing game.
Oh yeah,
is our grizzly bears. And so I have if you haven't watched my Instagrams, I've been on a tear lately against the fishing game here because they're bringing in grizzly bears, and it was pointed out to me by a fella that it's a U.S. Fish and Wildlife that's to blame for this. Nothing to do with our fishing game. And being a small business owner multiple times over, and being a man of my age, I've seen some things and I know some things. And the reason we're getting bears, which fishing game could have stopped it, they could have been like, hey, we don't want any bears, and there could have been this legal battle or fight or whatever, right? But they're like, hey, yeah, let's take these bears because it's a financial gain for the state, right? Because there's a management plan, there's this and that.
Whether or not it's actual the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife or it's just the state level alone, Washington could have said, absolutely not. We're not doing this, and they could have pushed back and forced legal action and stopped it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
They just want the money.
It's a money thing. It's the same reason why Washington State allows marijuana, but you can't have it federally, right? Like you're telling me that like we're literally breaking the federal law in Washington State with all these people that smoke and buy weed, but you can't do it federally. And it's the same thing. Like
perfect example.
Yeah, we could stop it. We could totally stop it. And it comes down to the money. And I had sent this, and I don't know this guy. He was passionate about our fishing game, and honestly, it isn't our fishing game; it's our fishing game commission, which pisses me off. There's good people in fishing game, a bunch of good people, but it is.
They don't even like their own commission.
Yeah,
right. These poor biologists are just getting railroaded.
It's like, why do I do my job when it doesn't do any good?
I mean, could you imagine that your entire job, the whole reason why you went to college for all those years and spent all that money, was that you could become a professional in that in that craft, right? And then you are hired by a department to specifically manage one species and to use all of your information and all your education to make decisions based on that. And then you go to the commission who has no education whatsoever in any of those scientific reasonings of managing and stuff.
We have an attorney. We have an anti-hunting expert. We have multiple, that's their like chosen profession,
Right.
Like I'm a head of an anti-hunting organization. Fantastic. I'm an attorney. I argue professionally. Great. Yeah, let's put you on the fishing game commission. It's going to be fantastic for us,
But that would just be such a defeating feeling.
Liar.
Yeah, professional liar.
Dude, seriously.
If you're a lawyer out there and you listen to our podcast, you're not the problem, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
But just imagine that, like, you show up to work every day and then just get pissed on, how would that make you feel? You'd probably feel like quitting. And a lot of them have quit.
Yeah.
100%.
So now we're not getting the best of the best anymore. We're getting the people who are going to roll over a lot easier onto what this new woke management plan crap is. And I'm just going to call that. We're going to call it the woke management plan.
I think that's pretty accurate. It's ridiculous. It's like what, I mean, it is. I mean, was it Lorna that wanted to take like Facebook surveys? Cause it's all about what they call it, social science or something?
Social science. Yeah. Social science.
Social science.
Yeah.
This. I don't like you. Quit doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
Where's my opinion on the social science?
Yeah. We can show you some social science.
Doug's like, man, I got a lot of editing to do.
Now we're just, hey-o. We talked about this, about just leaving everything kind of as is. I don't know. We'll just have to do a disclaimer before, like, no children.
Yeah. Chris swears. I'm sorry. I know. And we all it's just, everyone sees it. And I mean, all of us, like, we sit back and we go, what? is this like
Yeah.
how? Number one, how can they do this? Number two, why would they do this? It doesn't make sense for wildlife in Washington. It's a terrible idea,
Right.
and it's their thought process is science no, feelings yes.
Right.
Well, that's not how it works. Like, they're like, oh, grizzly bears can be so sweet, cuddly. Like,
Well,
yeah.
there has to be a line drawn, like between.
Well, hopefully when Trump gets into office, it'll be like, when Argentina, the new Argentina
Oh, I love
prime
that guy.
minister, he
Absolutely
came in
love that
and just
guy.
like got rid of everything.
Dude, cleaned
Yeah.
house.
Clean house.
I would love that.
That would be awesome.
I don't think we have a chance here in Washington, but man, I would. It's going to be bad if Bob Ferguson gets in. I'll tell you that much.
Oh my gosh.
Well, speaking of Bob Ferguson, there was some people, hunters, that I saw that were like, oh, hopefully if Bob Ferguson gets in, he'll be better than Inslee, and he'll try to correct the commission and this and that. And I'm like, I'm sitting there going, what in the actual hell are you talking about? Like,
Every single idea that Inslee has is Bob Ferguson.
perfect example is look at what Bob Ferguson did to try to help Lorna Smith in this lawsuit stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Went out of their way to spend state money and
Yeah.
attorneys to defend her personally. So if you think that Bob Ferguson is all of a sudden going to be the bearer of good news,
He's going to be worse than the wolves.
he is a wolf, dude. He's like a plague.
It's not good.
So
We're in a world of hurt for sure.
I hope that he does not get in, because gosh, that would just be,
It would suck.
I hate to say it, but it would pretty much be the nail in the coffin for as far as like what this commission is like. There's no hope for getting something that's a right path forward for management.
Yeah, we'd have 4 years of just disaster.
Yeah, I mean, we got 5 years until they revisit this wolf problem.
We got-
I don't know if we can sustain 5 years, to be honest with you.
It'll be white. I mean, just be like Idaho, when they first introduced wolves. And I remember going hunting out of Elk City, and there wasn't an elk to be found.
Yeah.
There's no deer. There's carcasses everywhere. Mm-hmm. Wolves everywhere. Mm-hmm. And they'll probably came out with these same bullshit studies saying, "Oh no, they don't have a major impact on them." We don't see that.
Look how extreme they've gone to Idaho to manage their wolves. They've gone to basically year-round season trapping. Even like there's like no real cap on what you can do to shoot wolves.
It's like I'm sure there's probably a YouTube video, but like, you imagine a guy and he shoots himself in the foot on purpose, and then he gets upset that there's a hole in his foot, right? That's what they're doing, right? They're letting all these wolves go. The wolves are going to destroy the shit out of everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've already done a lot.
And then they're
going
to be like, "Oh no, they're everywhere."
Can you imagine when there's wolves all over here, because they're already on the west side? There's multiple areas where there's packs, but imagine once they get established over here and there's wolves
dude.
just all over the place, and you just like look out in your yard and you're like, oh, there's a wolf.
Oh,
There's
just
a
like
pack
grizzly
of
bears.
wolves.
Dude.
Yeah. Can you- look
Especially when you can't hunt them. People are like, "Oh, they're fine up in Alaska." I was like, "Yeah, because they can kill them up there.
yeah, they have at least a healthy
They
fear
have a healthy
of humans.
fear." Yeah, like, okay, then this is the way I look at it. So the people that have allowed this to happen, they have to be responsible for all the people that are going to die, because a bunch of people are going to die. Just look at Montana and Wyoming. Like, it doesn't make the news because it's not sexy, but like, people every single year people die. Every year. It's like,
And just as many attacks.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of attacks. Like there's like two.
Not
in the
everyone's
last, like,
going to die
couple
from
weeks.
getting attacked, but,
But at the same time, like, in Montana, you talk to the game wardens over there, and it's like, if you shoot a grizzly bear, it's like game over, dude. Like, there's gonna be lawsuits. You're gonna have anti-hunting organizations trying to destroy your life. Like, if something tries to kill you, right? So if you defend yourself,
It better be like point blank.
and even at that,
Yeah,
right?
no questions asked. Like they're
you
100%.
you could have a bite mark on your arm, and they're still gonna be like, PETA's gonna be coming after you, and the rest of these stupid organizations.
Hey, I saw Yellowstone. I saw what happened to Rip when he shot that grizzly bear. So we're just living. I feel like we're living in like a bad episode of something that you'd see on TV. Like, it's just you don't even believe it.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. It's just like common sense going out the window, and we're just
Speaking of that, I saw some of that in action here last weekend. Old Joey Pyburn and Tom Nelson from the Outdoor Line. Shout out to those guys. Great dudes.
Doing that every episode now.
They have
Shout out to Joey.
they put together the dog derby, right? So like it's a fishing.
Which you went and did, right?
I went and did, yeah. Did not win. Fourth place. Joey and Tom kicked the shit out of everybody. Jerks. They did. I mean, it was like it was a bloodbath, dude.
You got fourth place though?
Yeah.
No, that's not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, you know. Didn't make the podium, but you know.
It's okay.
I was mooching too, right? Everyone had downriggers. I was, fourth place mooching. It's not bad.
You were doing the right kind of mooching.
So we go out in the Sound, right? We leave out of Everett and we get out there, and so Fish and Game have shortened the seasons so much. And I mean, it's a Puget Sound. Like this is like, it's not the fishing capital of whatever, but like at the same time is a huge part of the Northwest is fishing, right?
Fishing capitals, yeah.
I'm not shitting you. I went out there and there was what I feel like 1,000 boats around us.
Really?
I mean, boat after boat after boat after boat after. I mean, as far as you could see into the horizon.
That's what I heard.
Just stacked boat after. And this is like that's not exact 360 all around you.
Really?
Boats everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I asked Joey later, I was like, what's going on? He's like, oh, they just they mucked up our season so much that they tighten it down so everyone floods out into the water.
Yeah, because everyone's trying to get theirs,
Yeah, and then 3 minutes into the water, you got freaking 50,000 lines dragging through the water.
Mm-hmm.
All the fish get pushed down and messed up, and then like no one's catching fish. I mean, they caught fish obviously, but but I'm like, what a mess. Like,
it's the same thing with like when they do the shrimp seasons.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff,
it's like,
where it's like,
we're open from 3:12 to 3:15 on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yep.
Like,
and everyone's out there. And do you remember a couple years ago? I guess it was more than a couple years ago now, but because they only open for certain days, like a couple days out of the year, right? Mm-hmm. And they opened on the worst tides, and a giant storm was that day, and then someone died. Like they capsized their boat, and they died because of the crazy fishing regulations. And it's like, why are we so extreme here? And then you go over the border to Canada, and it's like, oh, you can catch, halibut's open year round.
All the fish. And you're like, wait a minute.
And all the salmon you want, and the shrimping's unlimited. And
yeah, it's an invisible line,
right
in the water. And then all of a sudden you can catch all the fish over there.
Yep.
And the fishing's better,
Right.
But then you come over here and then you can't catch, we can't keep natives and we can't do this. But then there's like Joey was saying, like we had caught a native. You have to let it go, right? Mm-hmm. But then you go over like Area 6 or whatever, and then you can keep them, which is another invisible line.
Right.
And I'm sure there's got to be some sort of science behind that somehow. But at the same time, I'm like, guys.
Well, it's like,
it's a fish in the water.
Yeah. I mean, just look at, you can go all the way to the borderline and be like, you can't fish here. But then you cross over to Canada, and it's like an unlimited regulation almost. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, what are we doing here? Like,
not doing it great.
What are we doing?
We're trying to beat California, I feel like, in like the idiot scale. You know how like you find out and then you know. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's that scale. California's pushing the limits. I saw today. I'm not making this up. You guys can Google it. And it said like California asked people not to grill their food because of air quality from like wildfires or something. There were so many particulates of this from a wildfire. So people are asked, don't use your barbecues. No more barbecuing.
It's like that's gonna have.
That's just like when they were like creating this ban of combustion engines, right?
Oh,
they
and then
wanted
they're
everyone to go
rolling
EV.
Power outages.
Well, not only that is the fact that they're not getting all their tax money from all the gas.
Oh,
now they're imposing a mile tax on every single car because they're not getting their revenue from gas tax.
It's crazy talk, dude.
It's like
everybody go EV. Oh crap, we need that money. To run our whole
tax
society.
you now.
Well, that's the thing
per mile.
That's a perfect example, Doug, because they don't think things out. So what's going to happen when you think you ban all the hunting here, right?
Yeah.
Number one, everything's going to run amok, it's going to go to shit. But where'd all the money go? It's billions of dollars,
Mm-hmm. They're not thinking.
Where are they going to get the money from?
Well,
I mean, 90% of my income goes towards hunting every year, so, you know.
Unfortunately.
yeah, me too. Every free dollar I have, it seems
Right?
like. It's like, yeah, we can either go to take the kids shopping for back to school, or Dad can get a new gun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, kids, looks like you're getting hand-me-downs again.
You know?
No, I'm not that bad.
It's going to be, I mean, we spend a lot of money, you know, like we spend a bunch of money. I'm going to go to South Africa with my dad here, you know, in a month, and I'm going to spend a bunch of money. And when I go to Montana this year, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to spend a bunch of money, you know.
Speaking of South Africa, I just watched that film that Robbie did from Blood Origins, Wire and Water, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's a documentary film.
I've
Really good.
Really?
Really good. It's really cool. If you want to see how hunting impacts a community with like economically and like how it can actually impact a whole community, watch that film. Because it's like a documentary on basically what hunting and what that money can do in a place where like poaching is rampant and there's no, like they had wiped all the game off the landscape and now they're trying to go in and reestablish these populations by monitoring poaching and all this stuff, which is all funded by hunting.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to like people. So where we're sitting is it's a lovely room of death, right? So people that don't hunt come down here and go, oh my God. And so, I mean, it is a little overwhelming. I'm not going to lie, but I got a bunch of South African stuff. And among those things, like I have a giraffe, right? And that's like that's the big trigger for people. Like,
trigger,
oh my God, you terrible human being. Why would you do that? You know? And it's just like, it's just a sack of meat. You know, like I didn't go to school with that giraffe. You know, my wife didn't birth it.
Or it's just like, why do they harvest elephants? Well, if you look at a lot of areas down there, they're just completely trampled on, and all the trees are pushed over. Because
it's just,
all the elephants are
it's just an
running rampant.
animal. Yeah,
everything has to be managed at some point.
Yeah,
like,
you got to manage it, and you put a dollar amount to it, right? And
that's the other thing. When you take the dollar value off of an animal, it becomes worthless.
Yeah.
Right. And so with hunting, it puts a dollar amount or a dollar value on all these game species.
Yeah.
And without that, there's no real value. So why do you care if they get wiped off the landscape by a bunch of wolves?
Right.
You know, like it needs to be balanced. And if it's not balanced, then it just all goes to hell. So
we're here and we got to manage it. You know, I was trying to remember who I was talking to, but it was like, you know, people are here, right? Mm-hmm. And you're not going to get rid of people, right? So we've affected things negatively in some aspects, but either way, you got to deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. You can't take us off the landscape. We'd like to keep the animals here, so you got to manage them. You can't. People are like, "Oh, let's go, let it go back to nature." I'm like, oh,
God. The rewilding theory,
get out of here with that shit.
It's like, okay, great. We're gonna rewild Washington. We have 8 million people.
How are you gonna rewild it? I mean, they were already like the Native Americans were killing animals for food like before we even got here.
Exactly.
So why does it matter?
I know. It's just like,
I mean,
but imagine now, like we have 8 million people here.
Yeah.
There's no way.
How are we gonna rewild Washington?
You need to call a guy by the name of Thanos with some sort of fancy like glove. You have to snap his fingers and just poof. You know what I'm saying? Like that, Doug?
Yeah,
that's what would happen. That's
like
what,
the Avengers.
Yeah, you know, if we're talking nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Let's go full
board,
full tilt. You know.
I said we just find a genie bottle and we just go rub that lamp.
Rub it out, bro. You know what I'm saying?
You get 3 wishes.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of moving into.
We're starting to get a little sidetracked.
We're definitely sidetracked. We said that we were going to do Q&A for the second half.
Classic podcast.
So, I guess we should start with some questions. So, question number 1. This is from John D., who is a good friend of ours and a very loyal follower on the internets. And we see him at events and stuff. So, John, thank you for sending a question. He said, would love to hear you run through your hot weather cooler / ice / meat care setup for a weekend hunt. Because it is August and we are going to have some hot weather. So,
Go buy a nice cooler.
So first off, I would say have a nice cooler, not just a shitty cooler that's going to run through ice.
Yeah, don't go buy an Igloo. Go buy one of them coolers that's like $400 or $500. Even though you don't want to spend that money on it,
I know,
it's totally worth it.
It doesn't even have to be like a $400 or $500. It could be like a $300 nicer, like an Arctic or.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Yeti's still a pretty good brand.
I bought the Cabela's ones, and I'm super happy
Cabela's
with them.
ones, yeah. Even the Cabela's brand is pretty nice.
Are they like the Grizzly or whatever, or is that my big one?
Oh, that's your big one.
That would be my pro tip. So that was made by Cabela's back in the day. I have a 400 quart cooler. It literally has forklift lifts. It's like a giant like fish type,
Oh yeah, it looks like a giant fish tote, but it's
Yeah.
a cooler. We've put literally entire bears in there.
So you could put multiple bears, but I think the kicker is like
You have to have a lot of ice though.
that's the thing is like I would. So here's my pro tip. This is from my Uncle John. I stole it. He would go to like Walmart, right, and buy the 99-cent gallons of water and freeze them.
Yep.
And so I have a specific cooler out in my other shop where I just freeze like 20 gallons of water,
Just have solid blocks. Of
and I have
ice.
so it's solid
Yep.
blocks. But here's the thing, I can take them. So say I get a bear and I'll layer it. So you keep your cooler cold, right? Obviously, keep it shut, and it's nice and cold, and you have all this ice in there. And then when you get your bear, you can take those jugs of water, even if they're partially melted, and they don't get everything wet, right? So you don't have to worry
Right.
about getting your hide wet or your meat wet or anything. And then you can pack these 1 gallon jugs all around your meat and your hide, and it doesn't ever get wet and gross, and there's not like blood
Right.
soup in the bottom. And
Well, and that's like number one key is you do not ever want to get your meat or hide soaking in water. So like if you're going to have ice in a cooler and you throw your game bags in there with the meat in it, you don't ever want there to be a bunch of water at the bottom of the cooler and that's just soaking in water because
So-
it'll ruin your meat.
Well, I have a good close friend of ours, John Tuss. I had asked him about this, and he said that when it gets soaking in water, like it can soak in water, but if it gets warm, it's going to be like an absolute breeding ground for bacteria.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And because I told him, I said, hey, I went hunting in eastern Washington on a lake, on a very, very cold lake. I'm not going to disclose my secret spot, but I said, my uncles had said before, like, oh, I just throw my meat in the lake, and it keeps it cold, like whatever, even if it's in a garbage bag or if it gets wet. And he goes, that's fine as long as it stays that cold the whole time. Because if it gets warm and it's wet, the bacteria will just flourish and then that's it.
Yeah.
It's game over. And if it's dry, if it's like super dry, you don't have that problem.
Right.
Even if it gets warmer, if it gets like that crust on the outside, like some guys will spray their meat with like citric acid. And then
Yeah, I was going to
makes
say citric acid. I've seen people use that before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Like
can do it.
burns the outside of the meat.
Yeah,
but
it makes
it's
like a rind type of deal.
Like
Yeah,
a
so like
protective layer,
all the
and then all you have to do is just carve that off. And
Yeah.
They make sprays
Yeah.
specifically for that. Yeah.
yeah, or you just you add it to like a water.
There is a great example of that. Probably one of my most favorite series that I've ever watched was the original Dropped with Casey and Chris. I think Kiefer, the Kiefer brothers.
That's that's like a survival show, right?
So they're hunters, right? And so they just decided, like, instead of like a regular hunting show, they're like, hey, we're gonna get dropped off in Alaska. We're gonna float this river with basically like just coffee and little food, and it's like gonna be like 28 days or whatever a month. And so they shoot a moose and a caribou and shit, but they were like taking and spraying the meat down because they didn't have any refrigeration, and that's what they ate. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. Catching fish and grayling and stuff and eating that every night. And I'm like, that's pretty dope. But they used citric acid,
Yeah.
and I was like, huh.
So
They keep their meat dry and in like a cooler area, and they make
You gotta,
sure
yeah.
a lot of meat care.
Yeah. So
There's a lot of care that goes into it. Like,
shout out to those guys. I don't know them. I've never met them, but they seem like cool dudes. And that shows like, as far as like good outdoor kind of reality type, because they were just filming themselves, or I'm guessing. I don't think they had a guy with them. Anyways, great show. Original series, the very first one.
Okay.
The very first one.
Well, there's multiple of them. Like it was such a big success that they had like
Yeah.
a bunch.
I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah. So
I've
first
never
one.
watched all of them, but
Yeah.
back to the question. So pro tip, frozen water jugs works great to keep it dry and
Giant cooler.
Yep.
Good cooler.
Big enough cooler. You can't have a too small of a cooler.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise it's all confined and you can't have enough ice in there. You want to have a lot of ice.
Yeah.
Take all your food out. Forget
Yeah.
your food.
Yeah. You don't want
Save
to
the meat.
have a separate smaller cooler for your food, and then
Yeah.
have a big cooler just full of ice, right? Or frozen jug or whatever. Another pro tip I would say is if you can or have access to dry ice, to also pack that around like either the jugs or if you had ice bags or something like that. And then create a barrier in between, obviously, so that meat's not going to get wet. A lot of guys will say, like, put dry ice, then regular ice on top.
Yeah,
so it
I've done that.
stays completely frozen. And then you can also take, like, a layer of cardboard or something like that and just put that on top, and then the meat goes on top of that. So it keeps it dry, so that when the ice kind of just slowly melts down, if it does, once the dry ice is gone.
It might keep it from absolutely freezing it too.
Right.
Because
and
I
that
know
too.
I've had that, because I've done that situation when I've gone camping, and sometimes I've had food that has been sitting on top of the ice that's sitting on top of dry ice actually freeze.
So I would definitely say, if you can, jugs of water frozen is probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
Good. So as far as meat care goes, good game bags. I'm a caribou gear guy, as you guys have known before. We have a code for that as well, I believe.
Yeah, it's BCO10 if you need some new game bags.
They're
Process your animal as soon as possible.
Yeah, when it comes
That
to
as well.
bears, getting that hide off immediately as fast as you can.
What's your guys' speaking of, what's your guys' thought on leaving it on the bone? I've heard a bunch of different stuff as far as like letting it rigor on the bone, it'll make your meat more tender, versus like cutting it off and getting it in smaller hunks.
I mean, there's a lot of situations where you have no choice but to debone it, because if you're going to take the whole animal out, if you're way in, you're not going to be carrying out those heavy bones if you're way in there.
You know, if you shoot it on the side of the road, you know, you can throw it in the back of the truck and you can deal with it at camp.
That's the
sometimes
ideal way.
Sometimes we have the
wink,
luxury
Doug.
with that.
We don't do that.
Every once in a while we can get them out whole, but when you need to break them down, I've always just left it on the bone usually. If it's not like a super bad pack out, if it's a really far pack out, I'll debone it. But leaving it on the bone is usually fine as long as you get that hide off and get it separated fast enough. If you have a period of time where the carcass is sitting there for a long time, say the hindquarters are closed off like on top of each other.
You need airflow for sure.
Like you need to get those quarters separated and away from each other, because that's like if you think about it, all that heat's being held inside of the big portions of meat, right?
Yeah.
And then the bone obviously doesn't help either.
Yeah.
But if you have both of those on top of each other, they're basically cooking each other. And you'll get a big spoilage on the inside of those quarters, and you'll lose a bunch of meat. So
separate the stuff the best you can.
Like
separate it as fast as you can.
Like a super fat person's rolls, you know?
Right.
And how they gotta like pick a roll up,
Jeez, Chris.
and clean the bread yeast out of the fat. It's the same thing. It'll cook. It'll cook.
Wow.
That's
okay.
That's hey, I'm just saying.
We went there.
That's a good.
we
That's
went
So-
there for that question.
yeah.
But I would say, like, this is the way I look at it. Bear hunting in August, when you shoot that bear, it's basically like there's
All
from the
hands on
time
deck,
when from the time that bear is dead, it's like you just started a stopwatch,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And you have X amount of time. So depending on the weather, if it's 100 degrees out, let's say you got 2 hours, right, to get that bear's hide off, get it broke down. Right, if it's 100
Get
degrees.
that meat in a bag so you don't get
And
flies all over
and
it.
get some airflow if you can. The best thing to do is to get it in a game bag so that there's not flies laying eggs all over it, and get it hung up like in a shaded spot somewhere to cool down a little bit, so you're not like instantly stuffing it in a garbage bag and then into your pack.
Right.
Like give it a little airflow. Even if it's gets to air temperature, it's going to be way more likely to be chilled off enough to where you're not going to have meat spoilage than if you were to just throw it in your pack right away.
Yeah.
So
I think the airflow is key. Mm-hmm. Speaking of those game bags, I've used the Caribou Gear ones. The drawstring I've used to hang up a moose quarter. Like the one moose quarter we had years ago, the heaviest one, it was like 200 pounds, dude. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously with the bone and the, everything, but like, I bet you I've consistently hung 100 pounds off those drawstrings, no problem.
yeah.
And so you can hang them, you get a tree branch that'll support it, right? And get it out there. And like you're saying, I think getting the meat separated, getting it dried out, making sure the moisture's off of it, making sure the bugs aren't on it. Like our disaster in Alberta when I went up there. And the guys, like, they waited too long to get the hide off the bears. When they did, they literally had it folded up in a blue tarp, no game bags. I'm like, where's the other bear? I folded the tarp back. This is no bullshit. I folded the tarp back, and there were already the flies. I don't know what kind of flies they are. They're big black suckers.
Yeah.
But you could see how the maggots, thousands of them.
Jeez.
And I lost all my meat.
Yeah.
So you got to get the hide off right away.
Yep.
You got to get them in a good game bag. Cooled down where they're hanging a tree in the shade, like you're saying.
If it's an overcast day, you get a lot more time. Like you could probably spend 3-4 hours breaking down a bear and be fine. But on a hot sunny day, especially if you're in direct sunlight, that's the other thing. Try to get in the shade. Because the direct sun is not going to be your friend.
No.
Doug, you're going to be out in the hot east here pretty soon. What are you going to do?
What am I going to do?
Yeah, you're going to shoot a bear here probably in a week. So,
well, luckily I have the what's the word I'm looking for? I have
a strong back.
A strong back, yes. But I have the luxury of putting that bear in a freezer.
Oh,
yeah.
That is at the cabin.
Yeah.
Even though I will have to run a generator, but
yeah,
still, I can at least get that thing really cold.
How are you gonna get it off the mountain if you shoot a big bear? You gonna
throw it over my back and carry that son of a bitch out.
All right. Okay. I like it, Doug. I like it.
All right. I think we spent enough on that question. So on to the next one. This is a Tim Galday.
Oh yeah. Oh, Timmy.
Good friend of ours. What options are best to a guy in, say, Western Washington for hunting style long range shooting to sharpen his skills and be more efficient in August? So he's asking, like, what can you do to shoot long range over here? Shooting on public land can be difficult and sketchy at times. That's the truth.
That's a fact.
What other options are there out there, if any? Long wait lists for gun ranges and long drives for shooting ranges with some distance. I'd like to see a younger generation and newer hunters have opportunity if available. So you're the gun shop guy. So if a guy wants to shoot more than, say, 200 yards, what kind of options does he have over here in Western Washington?
It's super tough. So the plantation up in Bellingham shut down. Honestly, if you're like kind of where we're at, right? There's a lot of ag around us. And I think in a lot of Western Washington down on the flats, there's a lot of agriculture. So if you can find a farmer, right, that will allow safely, obviously you need a good backdrop, right? And you need to be proficient with your firearm too. Just don't go out winging bullets, because if you're feet off and then next thing you know, you're, killing cows or whatever. But I would say if it was me and if I was a young kid, I would go out, I would try to find a big piece of farmland that looks like you could have a good area to shoot. It can't be completely flat, right? Because like I said, you need a backstop and a safe backstop. So like usually where they have like, I don't know how to put this.
Like a dike maybe or something?
Like a dike, or basically where they pile their shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
A berm.
A berm. There you go. So it's like it's all bermed up where the crap's at. So you could shoot into something like that. But the thing is, you need to you need to bring value to that farmer, right? Because no one wants just loud noises out on their farm. And you'd be like, hey, I'll tell you what, like, I'll help you out with something. Or most likely, if you said, hey, I will come out, and if you have a coyote problem, I'll take care of your coyotes. When I was in school, way back in the day in Marysville, we would go shoot pigeons for the farmers.
Okay.
Because the pigeons sat by the thousands would get into the silage, right?
Right.
And so we'd go blast pigeons for them, in return for the perks of the
so
farm.
just
right?
ask to trade some work of some sort for something.
But as far as long range goes, like the best
There's
chance,
not much around.
there's not.
There's not. No.
I mean, there's some places that you could go up on public land, like you said, and you could get into some areas where
The only long range place that I know of on the west side is Eatonville.
I have no idea.
I know some places up
They
in
have 1,000 yards.
Darrington area where you can probably
Really?
shoot that far, but you have to. I mean, there's not like a range. It's like you shoot from one road system to like another road system or something like that. But it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's super tough. Yeah.
Don't know what to tell you, Tim. It's not looking good.
Marysville Rifle Club does the hunter side-in September. So that's always open to the public. It's not really the best thing to do because it's usually really busy.
It's really busy, and they only go up to what, 200?
They have a 200 yard and a 220 meter.
Okay.
Or 200 meter.
so
it's like 230 yards or whatever.
I would say this to Tim. Well, not Tim because his family's in real estate. But if you guys send me enough real estate referrals, I can make enough money to where I can buy a shitload of land here. And then we'll have our own rifle range. So problem solved.
Yeah. Maybe we should start looking at something like that anyway. Just like
I've been
going
looking.
in and
I've been looking. Yeah.
You need a developer.
Yeah. Like.
All right, let's do it. We're gonna buy it. So check in next year, Tim. Maybe we'll have a range
Bear
set up.
Country Outdoors gun range.
Yep. Next one is Brad Thompson. Old Brad Thompson.
What's up, Brad Thompson?
He's a good dude. He's the one who's always putting in the petitions and everything. And
he's fighting the good fight.
He is. He said, "Is it true that maple bars are one of the building blocks of strength?"
That is, I can attest to that. You got it half right.
Yeah. Hold on. It's not over with the question. He said, "Joking." # not joking.
I'm not joking either.
Growing up, the bear hunters I ran with and carried a thermos of black coffee and at least 12 maple bars in the truck. Got to fill up before those pack outs. So, you know what? I would say yes. Rock the maple bars. I love maple bars, by the way. Isn't that your favorite? That's my favorite donut.
I will tell you. So
what's
we're not
your
sponsored, by the way, yet.
How are we getting sponsored by maple bars?
Shout out to Despy Delight Donuts in Everett, Washington. Right off of kind of like just
Despy Delight.
Despy Delight, right? Right by 40. It's on Broadway, right by 41st Street.
New sponsorship coming in hot.
This is, again, I'm not sponsored yet. Despy, reach out. Their donuts, and I am a giant, clinically obese man. Their donuts are so good.
I love donuts.
Their maple bars,
I know.
they have like a bunch of different kinds of maple bars too. Like,
You ever had ones with bacon on them?
dude, they got bacon ones there.
Bacon bars are where it's
They
at.
got
dude,
bacon.
they're
They're
so-
way better than
so
just
good.
the regular maple bars.
Yeah.
And this is not a lie. They have the best apple fritter there I've ever had.
Really?
And I've eaten a lot of donuts.
I feel like that's your favorite donut, isn't it?
Dude.
Apple fritter?
Apple fritter's my favorite.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Dude, Despy Delight, bro.
Despy Delight.
It'll blow your mind. And their maple bars are like, they're the perfect, like they're almost like crispy on the outside and the inside is like so decadent, hot, soft, and just like it is. I'm sweating right now just thinking about it. Like,
dude.
About the maple bacon.
so
bars.
you guys go there, tell them Bear Country Outdoors sent you, tell them to call us.
Just say, if we get enough people saying Bear Country Outdoors sent us here, we might get a sponsorship for donuts.
I love their donuts. Love them.
This is where we're going now.
would be
Thanks a lot,
hilarious.
Brad. All right. Lost Valley Traditions. Those boys are killers, and I like those guys. I like their page. Tips for hunting lowland Western Washington bears. Let's say at 3K and below.
Ooh, I like
Good
that.
luck this season. So damn close. Yeah, it is close. We're almost there to opening day. So, Western Washington below 3,000 feet.
Ask around, see if there's any problem bears getting into people's garbage.
And honestly, you're onto something there, Doug. So
Because I almost had it happen last year.
local bears a lot of times can be a good bet. Like if you can find a good local spot that either there's someone that like what Doug's saying, there's someone that's seen bears or there's having bears problems at their house. It's a good go-to. Lowland below 3,000, you're probably hunting mostly blackberries and possibly maybe like
Huckleberries.
maybe some huckleberries. You know, I don't know. It's kind of right around that range. You know, at 3,000 feet.
Dude, the huckleberries right now, bro. Did you see my huckleberry?
There's a lot of huckleberries,
Dude.
but
Most
clear
of the
cuts.
time, most of the time, those bears are getting into people's garbage
Yeah.
that are down that low.
Well, it depends. Like if you're talking like, you know, there's a lot of foothills too that are 2,000, 3,000 feet.
Yeah.
And I've had really good luck hunting road systems where there's a lot of thick, dense forest around the road systems, but the roads themselves are closed in by blackberries on both sides. And if it's a gated road or something like that, and there's blackberry patches going all down those roads,
Right.
a lot of times you'll see just a lot of bear shit on the roads, and you'll be able to tell if they're eating blackberries. It's like purple, you know. If you're finding bear shit all over the road, a lot of times what I would just do is I would go and park my truck at the, you know, wherever the
Gate
close
and
point
just
is.
walk the roads.
Or if it's a spot where the road's open, then I would park close to where I'm finding sign, and then I would walk in and I would just slowly creep down, and I would just go both ways and just hoping to catch one on the road at some point, or one will pop out. And I had a lot of good luck doing it like that. Another thing is older clear cuts. So not the brand new clear cuts. You're not going to find berries in those clear cuts, but stuff that's like 4 or 5 year old clear cuts, and sometimes even up to like 7 years old if it's not too thick to hunt. Those are like the prime clear cuts that you're going to find, like a lot of the real low ground blackberries.
Salmon berries.
Yeah, well, salmon berries is probably going to be burned out by then, but you're going to find
springberry.
What's the other one? Like elderberries. There's other kinds of little weird berries that grow in those clear cuts sometimes too. But those are going to be like probably your best bet for Western Washington. It's so damn thick. Like it's hard to find a spot where you can actually see more than 100 yards. So it's either clear cuts or roads, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much like, I think I've shot more bears off of logging roads hunting blackberry patches than I have clear cuts. But
I think it comes down to finding sign.
yeah, it's
You know?
the bears are where you find them.
Yeah. It can.
Right, Doug?
That's right.
That's what you find sign. You're gonna.
It's the same as it ever was,
It's the
Jim.
same as it ever was. That's an inside joke. So,
If you ever heard of Talking Heads, you'll know what we're talking about.
it's the same as it ever was. So good. So, anyways, next question. We got one more here, and then I think we'll probably be wrapping her up.
Okay.
Can you guys rate the berries in preference? I found clear cuts coveted, or I think you said covered. I think you meant to say covered with elderberries and thimbleberries, but no bear sign. Question 2, thoughts on copper bullets. So let's start with question 1. Rating berries in preference when it comes to bears.
Depends on the area you're hunting.
Yeah, so depends on the area. Like Western Washington versus Eastern Washington. What kind of berries are they into at what times?
I know over here they love blueberries.
Over here, blueberries are probably king in the Alpine or in the higher country.
Yeah.
If you can get on ripe blueberries when they're abundant up in the higher country, up above, what is that? Usually about 4,000 feet-ish.
Yeah.
4,000 to 6,000 maybe is probably the highest range.
Apparently, even when they're green. Doug's recent adventure.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Blueberries are always a good bet. The flip side to that is that you gotta go and get away from people a little bit because their bears aren't just going to be hanging out in the open.
Yeah, you got to hike up there a little bit.
So I would say that's probably preference number 1. Preference number 2, I think, would be blackberries for Western Washington anyway.
Yeah, and the huckleberries, like the the blue huckleberries or whatever they are, the mountain huckleberries, not the red
huckleberries, huckleberries too. If you can get in a big huckleberry area, it's hard to say because bears are opportunistic with whatever food is abundant.
Mm-hmm.
So like they kind of switch roles as the berries come into season. Like they might be hammering huckleberries, and then as soon as blackberries come on or blueberries, then they're hammering those.
Yeah.
And so it's just finding what they're hitting at the time when stuff's ripe.
Yeah.
The best bet is honestly whatever is in peak ripe, that's probably what they're hitting.
Yeah.
And last year we ate a shit sandwich on that when we went over, and they were super ripe when you were there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went over thinking we were just going to smash them, and all the berries were burned out.
Or they were all gone.
Yeah, and that's
gone,
Eastern Washington, right?
Yeah.
So
Which sucked.
Eastern Washington
and there's
is
like
way different.
3 or 4 different kinds of berries that are all kind of in like ripe at that same time.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years that we've been going hunting over there, it seems like the choke cherries are the key food source that they're really hitting hard.
I would say, for Eastern Washington, if I was to rate number 1 during that time, like during August, September, choke cherries is number 1. Usually they're trying to hammer the crap out of those. After that, I would say probably hawthorns are a good bet. Hawthorn berries are very popular. As soon as the choke cherries are starting to burn out at all, they go straight to hawthorns, which are more of a thorny tree.
Mm-hmm.
And then ghost berries are usually last. That they'll eat them, but they don't necessarily
not their
go
favorite,
after them.
but there's definitely abundance of those.
And then I would say their least favorite berry of all the berries would be rose hips, which they will eat, but I think they probably taste like shit because they don't really want to eat them unless they have to. I mean, if you look at them, you ever broke a rose hip open to look and see what it's like?
I ate one. It tastes like shit, yeah.
I've eaten choke cherries too, and they taste like shit.
Yeah.
No. Have you ever had a choke cherry? Please come try to convince me that they taste good.
Yeah, they taste like kind of
like chalk.
They taste. It tastes like berry chalk.
Someone's gonna say, "Well, Doug, you're preparing them wrong. It's all preparation."
Right. Yeah, the rose hips.
I just want to eat it off a tree. Okay,
just like a bunch of seeds and like they're like dry, kind of gross.
Well, it's more like a flower.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah, there was like an Alaska show, and they're picking them. They're like, "Oh, and they make good medicine, this and that." And I was like, "Oh,
well, you can get like supplements at the store that are like rose hips."
So I was like, "I'll just eat one." Holy hell, tastes like shit.
That's why they break it down and put it into powder form.
1 star, do not recommend.
So I mean, bears are they're gonna go for whatever the best. Honestly, they'll go for whatever the best tasting berry is that's available. It's probably what it comes down to. The most sugar content. So
if it tastes sweet to you, I think that's a good, like how good like blackberries taste to us. Like bears are gonna eat those first over here,
Oh yeah, for sure.
And honestly, the huckleberries I have right now, like. I had a handful today, and they are the sweetest they've ever been. Like it's a bumper year for.
Oh yeah,
super good.
I think it's going to be a good berry year in general.
I think so.
It seems like the berries are going to be pretty much on point with what typical years are.
Yeah, fat
for
bears.
ripeness. Yeah, they're going to be nice and big berries. They're going to be more plump because it's not been such a drought. We had a kind of a late summer. Sort of start to summer compared to the last few years, so
it's been cooling down lately too.
I think the bears are going to be putting on fat good this year. And then so on that same exact question. Oh, and this is Jimmy J is the guy who was asking this question. The second part of that question was thoughts on copper bullets.
We were just talking about that because you can't. I had a customer ask me about copper bullets for California, and I don't think you can hunt there period with lead ammunition anymore. Which
there's a lot of states that are starting to kind of go down that road.
It's like that one turtle that got a straw in his nose, and then we all had to use those stupid paper straws. Hated those paper straws. It's the same thing. Like you shoot. So the thought process behind it is I shoot a critter. I got the critter, or the critter gets away, whatever, and like an eagle eats it, and then eats this lead bullet and gets sick and dies. Like the percentage of that happening is like me winning the lottery tonight, which I did buy a ticket. Hopefully, I win. but it's ridiculous. But my thought on it, so Barnes was the leader in first major manufacturing lead-free ammunition, so all copper. The problem is it's like electric cars right now. Like, you know, you can buy 1 million regular combustion engine cars, and you have a very limited selection. Like, you can go buy a Tesla or a Rivian or whatever you're gonna buy. Like, it's very, very limited, right? Mm-hmm. And the same goes for copper bullets. I don't think they're bad, but I think that your selection is smaller. Mm-hmm. The copper is lighter than lead, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a reason they put lead in the bullets, right? So you get a higher sectional density, you get better flight paths because they stabilize better. It's just a lighter bullet.
They're probably going to bond and hold together better.
As far as like, so the idea behind a copper bullet is like you get this massive weight retention, right? So they don't blow apart like a copper lead bullet. So the burgers we shoot, for instance, this is a great example. I shoot a burger. It goes 2 to 3 inches into an animal and literally explodes. Boom. All the energy into the animal. Fantastic. That's exactly what I want. Animal falls over completely dead. Typically only an entry, not an exit.
What are the burger bullets? They're just...
So it's a thin copper shell.
Yeah.
With a lead slug in the middle.
Okay.
Right? Smashed in. It's like old technology before old John Nozzle was like, I got to make this, you know, like... So... And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking copper bullets. I don't shoot them because they're not as good for what I want to do, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I want something to stay together and penetrate, like there's bonded bullets as well, but at the same time, like that's what copper's going to do. It's going to poke a hole through both sides. You know, some guys are like, oh, you need a blood trail on both sides, and I'm like, well, you just wasted all that energy blowing out the other side of the animal. Like, what's a bullet doing? Like, why shoot a gun that big if you're just going to waste all that energy blowing through an animal? Is my thought process. Now, there's a lot of thought processes out there, so I'm not knocking anyone's else, but I don't like them. I wouldn't hunt with them. You know, either like say for instance, I'm going to go to South Africa, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to bring a 470 Nitro Express. I'll shoot some solids, right? That are meant to like blow through, like say for instance, if I'm going to shoot, you know, a Cape Buffalo, they say, you know, you want a solid, but then you follow it up with a soft point or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea is like I'm going to shoot through the front shoulder, break it down, then I'm going to shoot it with the soft point, so it will expand and give that energy, release that energy into the animal. So I feel like we're probably going to get some pushback on this, but the science is sound, right? It doesn't release as much energy into an animal, which I don't like, right? And it petals out. It still, it does some, but as far as what I'm trying to accomplish, like I'm trying to accomplish instant death with my bullets, and it just doesn't do that, right?
Yeah.
And I like the idea of all of that energy going in and 1 million little pieces of shrapnel going through, typically breaking the spine, like the classic Best of the West Side shoulder shot. Like they always dump, Mm-hmm. Like that's the reason, because there's 1 million pieces of bullet going everywhere, breaking, bones and spine and organs and everything else.
Yeah, the bullet's dumping its energy in less than 16 inches rather than going all the way through.
They don't run when they're hit by those bullets. They just don't.
And don't get me wrong, like there's a specific bullet for every cause or every situation, right? Like, so what we do, right? So this year we're gonna hunt bear and deer and elk, right? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna shoot some other stuff, in South Africa. But here, the idea is like I want to shoot a bullet, whatever it is. Even if it's like we were just talking about the Hornady bullets, like the ELDX for the 300 PRCs we're gonna shoot. So as far as factory ammo goes, great. Like it's a copper shell, lead core
with a polymer tip.
And the idea is that polymer tip it is very very consistent, right? So you get the same ballistic coefficient from bullet to bullet to bullet to bullet. You shoot that bullet, it should
do the same thing every time,
mm-hmm. which is accuracy, right? Even if you're doing it wrong, if you do it wrong every single time, it's still accurate, right? It's just accurate somewhere else. So the idea is that polymer tip pushes into the bullet, expands the bullet, hopefully dumping as much energy as possible.
Yeah.
So I would rather shoot one of those bullets than an all copper bullet. If I had to shoot a copper bullet, I would. Are they as good? No. Do I believe like the makeshift social science behind it? No.
So you're saying if you have the choice, you're never going to choose
No.
a copper bullet.
No, never ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that pretty much answers it.
Yeah.
I think it's. I mean, if it came down to it, and that's all you could use, I mean, I guess it's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you have the choice and you're in a state where you don't have to use that, lead bullet is not going to kill you. Like you getting some lead in your meat somewhere.
Oh, dude, it happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
all the time. Chewing a meat stick, and I'm like, what is that? And I got to dig a piece of lead out of the back of one of my molars, and like.
Right. It's not. I mean, obviously, we try not to eat lead, but
I've done it a bunch.
I'm sure we have ingested a lot of lead. I mean, look at before they had those fancy tools where you could like check your birds for shot and stuff like that.
Oh, dude.
Like, think about how much lead shot was eaten, all the years.
Dude, and like, I don't know about you
I
guys.
know it's probably not good for you, but
If that's all you have is copper bullets, and you won't go hunting if you don't have copper bullets because you live in California, use copper bullets. I don't care.
Yep.
Are they as good? I don't think so. And that's my personal opinion. Well, if you came into the gun shop, that would be my professional opinion as well. So
yeah. Okay, well, fair enough.
potato tomato.
Well, Doug,
You're gonna get more force out of more weight in a bullet too.
Mm-hmm.
You carry a little bit more
Higher
impact.
sectional density,
Yeah.
higher just bullet weight. Period. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, Doug, should we wrap this one up?
Wrap it up.
Talk about some sponsors.
Yeah. Let's give a good shout out to our sponsors, Leupold. As you can see, everyone's got shirts on but me.
Yeah, because you're a loser. Me and
'Cause
Chris,
I'm a loser.
we were twinning tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't even mean to.
You guys
I know,
matched.
We didn't. We're on the same
Wash cycle, apparently.
the same man cycle, I guess.
Yeah.
We only got a handful of T-shirts that we wear.
Yeah.
Seriously.
There's so many that we gotta say. MDT, they got some awesome chassis. We're excited to put our rifle builds together on these bad
Chris
boys.
is gonna be starting those hopefully this week.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to start cutting. Speaking of the Benchmark barrels, so we got our carbon fiber blanks from Benchmark. We're going to start a really, really cool. Doug's going to put together a three-part. I think it's going to be a three-part.
Yeah, we'll do a
series,
3-part series.
on YouTube of these builds, and it's going to be pretty cool.
It's gonna be awesome. So
These
keep
are
an eye
gonna
out.
be the bee's knees in the woods.
And I'm
And
wearing.
they'll have Timney triggers,
Yep.
and then we have the
triggers
MDT
and-
stocks, MDT magazines, Benchmark barrels, American Rifle Co.
American Rifle
out of
Code
Mukilteo,
Actions.
Washington. Again, all this stuff is local.
Go check them out. We have a discount code for them as well.
Yeah.
What is it? BCO
24?
20. Is it
I think it's
BCO
24.
20 or 24?
I think it's
24.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, it's on our link tree on Instagram if you
Yeah.
want to look it up.
Which is a great discount, by the way. I just had a guy use it, and it's like $100 off an action or something. It's a good deal.
That's a really good deal.
You save money on your tax.
We just got a shipment from Numa today
Oh, yeah.
or yesterday or whatever
Got
that
some
was.
Sweet
Yeah.
bino harnesses. Excited to use those.
New bino horse for
Looking-
Doug. An upgrade for
looking-
sure.
Looking forward to
I
their,
was eyeballing
their
that
camo gear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That camo. I like that camo pattern.
Yeah, it looks really good.
That's a new one, right?
I believe so. I think it's just slightly different than their old one,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like the Kaza, I think. But yeah, their gear's looking good. We got some more stuff coming our way, but we got a little shipment of some stuff
Which is
that I'm
going
to be using next week.
to get the crap kicked out of here in a week.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Hopefully, when the season starts, we'll be able to fill some game bags from Caribou Gear full of some meat.
God, I freaking
Yep.
love those guys. By the way, like they're such good game bags, and the dudes are super nice. Like
Super simple.
I feel like all our sponsors have those people that we deal with that are super good. Speaking of, we just got a new person at Montana Knife Company, so looking forward to
Some new knives. that we're
yeah
gonna use.
we're going to be working with her, and I'm excited. they're obviously blowing up right now. So
Yeah, it's almost impossible to get a
yeah.
knife if you want
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I
'Cause
can,
they just-
dude, it's
they sell
insane.
out so fast.
Like, shout out to Josh Smith and Brandon for building this company up the way they have.
They've built a brand that people have to have it.
It's so like their marketing is freaking genius.
Yeah.
It has been from the beginning. I think
And
Brandon is a
they
genius
never
in
have
that.
any leftover product
No,
ever.
no. And Josh is just like he's just like the workhorse, dude. He just keeps going. He's like the Energizer Bunny. I don't know where he gets
He's
all
trying
his
to
energy.
build it up as much as he can. He's got multiple people grinding away on knives and putting them together, and he's got a small factory over
They
there
just
now.
announced this collaboration knife with Meat Eater that Steven Ranella just helped develop the blade.
Boo.
It looks actually. I was looking at the blade, dude. The blade. I was like, "Damn, dude, that's a good one there, Steve. That's a good one." And you can tell he's been through some hunts. Like it's pretty
I'm a
much how I would
Meat
develop
Eater
a blade.
fan. Yeah.
It's the blade looks, dude. It's like exactly how I would make a hunting blade. Short, stubby, but like the perfect curve.
He's always beating me to the punch.
Damn it, Steve! You got us this time. You got us.
This one time.
Yeah,
Just one time.
Never again.
but are we missing anyone? I think we got it all.
Cantrell Outdoors.
Yeah.
Cantrell
We couldn't do it without Cantrell Outdoors.
We couldn't build these rifles without Cantrell Outdoors. If you need any long range, awesome rifles built, call Chris.
Yeah.
At Cantrell
And we
Outdoors.
even have, I know some guys, so we're usually a couple months out for rifle builds at a minimum, but we, Cliff and I, built a bunch ahead of time, so we do have some in stock for guys.
Oh yeah, you guys got a couple nice builds.
We got
too.
some. I think we got 300 Ultramag, 300 PRC. But no, I'm back to that series though. I'm super excited. I hope it turns out as good as it is in my brain already. So
Oh, I think 100% it will.
yeah, I'm gonna start spinning up barrels tomorrow. So,
Yep, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And if you got a spotting scope, make sure you go and check out Allin.
That's right.
They got some sweet
Oh,
spotting
yeah.
scope stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna use their. I'm gonna bring their bino adapter too, because we got bino adapters for Leupold binoculars. So I'm gonna try that out on this.
I haven't
upcoming
tried
hunt.
the bino adapter yet. I'm excited to see.
I
how
might
it-
actually leave the spotter behind because I'm planning on packing a camera and we're trying to go lightweight on this backcountry hunt we're gonna do. So I think I'm gonna bring my all-in phone adapter for the binos and try to get footage that way too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because I don't want to carry around a spotter and a camera.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, like and a
Just
tripod.
remember, you're going to be in big country.
I
It's
know.
going to be some long distance.
And if me and Doug learned anything about backcountry hunting, bring enough damn food.
And water.
Yes.
And water.
Well, we have
luckily where
filtered
you're going,
water
you're
up
going to
there.
have plenty of water.
But as far as food goes, have you ever been on a backcountry hunt where you like run out of food, or if you're
Dude.
too low and you can't have enough calories?
Yeah.
It sucks, especially if you're hiking your ass off.
All I know is bring some Ziploc bags so you can pick berries.
I have a
I ate about a gallon of berries when I was up there the last time we did that.
I know we're trying to shut it down, but I will say I went hunting in Alaska and didn't bring enough food, and then I had like the fish that I caught.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I went to a grocery store, and I was like, "Holy shit! I could buy all of this food." And it was like, I was 28 days. I was in the bush for 20 days. It was amazing. Like
Oh, yeah.
a grocery store. So I 100% understand.
And you're like, everything looks good, and you're like, ooh, I'm gonna buy some of this. Ooh, look at these ding dongs.
Right.
Ooh, look at this. Like,
Yeah. Look at all these calories. I can just eat all
Yeah.
this shit.
yep.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Good
Yep.
stuff.
All right,
So
Doug.
thanks again. Thanks for paying attention and following along with this podcast, because it's sure a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And can't wait for the season to get started, and hope everybody has some good luck this year and get some animals on the ground. And until next time, stay humble and hunt hard.